And then next we will have Ms. Fatim Baji, CEO of ACE Communications. Good. And last but not the least, Mr. Fode Njai, representing Bajara Jabi of Uni Global. Is Mr. Njai in the building? All right. Awesome. I think you should be sitting next to Aliu. Yes, because I think the next guy is a dude. Is Fode Njai in the building? Mr. Fode Njai from Uni Global. This one you might have to help me because I don't recognize the dude. Okay, Aliu, do you want to start or do you want to wait for Mr. Njai? I don't recognize the man. You don't too? Yes. All right. We're going to be starting in a minute. So if you're going around in this, with the businesses that are exhibiting, if you can please keep it a bit low so that we can hear the panelists speak. If you are still upstairs having your lunch, we would really appreciate if you can wrap it up and we can start the program or reduce the volume. Thank you so very much. I'll hand it over to you, Mr. If Bajara is not here, then please can we move it around?
No, next one. Next one. The wife that is asking. This. So
what we're going to do is...
Okay, there you go. Isn't that how are you? Good, good. Fine, thank you. Please. Sorry.
Clearly.
So we have 30 minutes.
Yes, do you have a mic here?
Yes. And then the conversation aside.
Okay, good. You know what? It's a bit messed up, but... Really? All right. Ali, over to you. You're good to go. 30 minutes. Sorry, 1 hour.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed lunch. Thank you very much for still being here with us today. I know it's very usual and typical sometimes with these programs. After you eat, you see that people start to slowly disappear, but I see a good number of people still here. So thank you very, very much for still staying here with us. We've initially scheduled an hour for this session, but I think we are running a bit behind time. So what we are going to do is we're going to try to limit it to 30 minutes so that we can save time. At least we can be able to get in the last 30 minutes where we're going to be doing the presentation on the entrepreneurship toolkit. So before getting going, this is going to be a fireside chat, an informal talk. And then the idea is really to hear directly from leading entrepreneurs, their journey, their entrepreneurship journey, growing a business to scale in our environment, which I think would be very telling and insightful for all of the young entrepreneurs here who are looking to do the same. So before proceeding further, I'll allow each of them to quickly introduce themselves. I'll start with my beautiful sisters right next to me, Ms. Fatim Baji.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Fatim Baji. I am the CEO of ACE Communication Executive. We've been operating for 13 years. And we are specialized in strategic communication planning and execution, training, research. And when I say research, we mean tracer studies, assessments, market research and the likes. And also we do public relations to help institutions look good. And we also are writers, we're content developers. So anything you read and write with companies mostly, we prepare those content. So that's what we've been doing for the past years. We also have a call center, but we typically use it for phone surveys. Lastly, we've recently got into development. So that's ACE Communications. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Sorry, I think it was a good lunch, and I can see from your eyes that everybody had a good lunch too. So my name is Sidi Omar Bensouda. I'm the CEO of InsysNet, known as INET, and our mission statement is very simple: to get every Gambian online to affordable connectivity. And we are now going into our 6th year of operation, and to date we are now we've now got the affordability issue down. I think we are now working on accessibility and getting our coverage to more and more Gambians. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fodenjai, representing Uniglobal Company Limited, one of the leading Gambian manufacturing companies, adding value to domestic raw materials like corn. We turn corn into snacks like popcorn, corn puffs, and the like. Likewise, animal feed, both for poultry, ruminant animals. We also do instant cereal, which is our state-of-the-art project that we're handling as of now. We're closely working with the FAO and NANA with regards to that. Successfully, we have launched the product as of last month, and we are entering the market. Hopefully, we can share more of these ideas in this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njai. Thank you, and thank you very much for the introductions. So we'll have an informal conversation. I don't believe that there are any even formal script that we're going to follow. So what we're looking to discuss in greater detail is really just understanding your journey towards success in the Gambia in growing a business to scale. I think there are a lot of experiences, do's and don'ts, hopefully, that you can pass on. But where I will start, and I'm always very curious with this one, entrepreneurship. Do you see it as a calling, or do you see it as being like not any other job? Question, I'll start. I'm just curious to hear your views on this. Do you think that entrepreneurs are born, or do you think that entrepreneurs are made, in a way? Question.
I'm laughing. I don't think you're born. I think you are made. And for many reasons I say that. When I look back on my entrepreneurship journey, I think my board chair asked me once, and I said, I wish I had the wisdom of all my mistakes 10 years ago, right? And I think that's ultimately what it is. You mature into the role of becoming an entrepreneur and figuring out how to make what others see as impossible or a huge challenge possible. And it takes a little bit of, it takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of passion, it takes a lot of wisdom, it takes a lot of energy, and of course a lot of luck and a lot of patience, especially when you start scaling, which hopefully we'll get to talk about a little bit more. So yep, that's my view on it.
I think that was a very good description. I'll attempt as well. So I see entrepreneurs as creators. You know, we are the ones who make things from scratch. You know, you can go and get a ready-made box somewhere, like a full-time employment somewhere. But when you decide to actually create a product, you have an idea, or sell, to be and do all, really, you become a creator, you become a maker from scratch. So I think because of the word maker, I would agree. It has a lot to do with make, made. These are the things that surround entrepreneurship. Okay, so we are made. We are makers as well, and we are driven by ideas or self-belief. And entrepreneurs are people who set up big structures. They're powerful in their own right in terms of making. So that's a short answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Yes, I think I would just reiterate what the former speakers have said. I think entrepreneurs are actually made based on the societies and the environment they find themselves, the factors that are impacting their growth, good or bad. Entrepreneurs are people that find solutions. In order to be one, you're not only looking for profit, you're looking to solve people's problem, and in the process, make a living out of it. So in short, I think that's what an entrepreneur is. I don't think each and every one of us here can be one, depending on whatever solution we're trying to find and solve.
Thank you. I'm sure they're wondering why I asked that question. Yeah, I think this is better. Okay. I'm sure some are wondering why I asked that question. And I think it's very pertinent because we have a lot of entrepreneurship training, a lot of different types of training that you have, different business service organizations. There's a lot of funding. And there's always that question that's always at the bottom of my back of my head. What was the motivation to go into business? Because there's somewhere that see entrepreneurship like a profession, if I could say. I go and do these training programs, and then I can go and start a business, and then I can survive out of the business. The question I ask is that the journey and the motivation that we see in a lot of successful entrepreneurship journeys, or are they people who are driven by a passion that they want to create solutions? That is what I'm wondering. So that was why I asked. And now, I think to get the second bit of the conversation going, I'm curious to know what motivated you to start your own business. I know I'll start with Fatim. I know Mr. Msinjai, I don't know too well, but I know CD and I know Fatim very well. And I know that if they wanted to settle within the corporate world, maybe the motivation for entrepreneurship is not necessarily to find a job or to earn an income. So it has to be something more than that. So I'll start with you again, Fatim. What was the motivation towards you wanting to start your business?
Look, it's okay. Thank you so much, Aliu. You know, it's funny we're on this platform because him and we used to sit on the same desk in school, literally, in Marina, JX. So it's very interesting, and of course, CD, we all grew up together, sort of, I'd say. I would honestly say that in a million years, I never expected myself to be an entrepreneur. I think at most, I would have been a person working in government. But when I came home and started working in the private sector in Gambia, before I worked in private companies, I was already exposed to what businesses are like, and I was really attracted to the corporate world. My motivation for being an entrepreneur emerged from similar job offers that I was receiving at a time. And that made me realize that I didn't need to be exclusive to one body or one institution, but rather I could use myself as a hub to expand to other institutions. So as a result, I set up this company at the age of 25. And I just turned 25 when I opened it. And when I opened it, I did have a vision. I had motivation to see Gambia as a call center hub for the region, looking at the proximity of Gambia towards the West and the likes. So not only did I start the company, but the company paid for my master's degree in ICT for development. And that's when I merged out of communications and got into more hard skills like ICT for development as a result of preparing myself for where I wanted the company to go. But as time went on, I evolved, and so did my plans for the company. And now we're in other things that you could never imagine. But we are meeting up needs that we find in societies, meeting up solutions that we know the society needs. And especially in my sector, many people think if you're in communications, you need to be holding the mic or being seen on TV. But there's so much strategy that goes behind in terms of communication work. Some of you that work for United Nations or working at bigger corporations, you understand what it takes. There's a lot more content, there's a lot more organization and thinking and analysis in order to know how to communicate, share the information and the likes. And in a matter of fact, almost every business relies on communication. So this has been an inch that we've been able to carve over the years. And it's funny, it's like a moving bullet. Like the moment that you're close to achieving your vision, you already can see further. So you keep moving to a new vision and a new vision. So in a sense, it's like, as an entrepreneur for me, it's a discovery of self. As I grow, so does the company grow. And so there's no telling who I will be. There's also no telling what Ace Communication will end up being.
For me, one of the things I drive a lot of passion from is creating things. And I found myself, the idea of starting an entrepreneurship or becoming an entrepreneur started while I was at my previous job. And I worked on a project. And I spent 2 weeks working on the project. And I went out on a limb. My manager at the time wanted me to do the project a specific way. And I decided to do it a radically different way. And simply because I didn't agree with his approach. And it turned out that I had come up with a very ingenious way of solving a problem. So when we went to do the presentation with the president of the company, he got very excited and asked, and the following day, the patent lawyer came to my office to give me a bunch of documents. And I think one of the documents was that, everything that I had just worked on belonged to the company. And I think that was the first time I said, well, look, maybe I should try. But deep down, one of the things that I find or derive a lot of energy from is solving a problem. And INET is the second company that I've been fortunate to set up, and hopefully it won't be the last. I was with a colleague last week, and I was telling them how I'm looking forward to starting yet another venture. And I think for me, that's it. What is the problem, and can I come up with a way of solving that problem that nobody else has thought of? And for me, that's really a source of my motivation.
Uniglobal is an idea that has been conceived over the past 8 years. We did not start operations until 2020. We've been working our way up because we had this interest in poultry, and we've been doing it over and over again. But the difficulty that we were facing was having access to feed. Feed is one of the main components of poultry, so we have to go as far as Senegal to get it. And what type of feed are we trying to look for? We're looking for pellet feeds. So throughout the Gambia, we can get something like this. That was why we started working and researching on how we can get a pellet machine here in the Gambia, one that can serve the needs of not only us, our poultry farm, but all other poultry farmers that are here in the Gambia, who mostly look at Senegal as the main market or suppliers. And that way we were losing a lot of money outside as a country, and even individually as well. So that was how we came about to invest in a poultry feed machine, which also motivated us to bring in a snacks machine and of recent an instant cereal machine. All this is with the belief of making Gambia a food self-sufficient country. If you look at our trade trends, it's like Gambia only exports raw materials. We don't export anything that is your finished good. That is why we are accounting for less and less of foreign exchange. So we have to look away from raw materials and look at finished goods. And this is what Uniglobal is here to change. These finished goods, if you look at the instant cereal that we've started off recent, the major one that we've seen in the market is the Cerelac, which everybody knows. but all the others are lacking in terms of the nutrient content and in terms of quality as well. I hope FSQA officials are here. They can confirm that with us. We've done that work with them. So we're not only looking at making food available, but making sure the food that is available is of quality and of standard, and that it's fit for Gambians to consume, and of course, export the surplus to requirement to other countries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njai. I think it's very, very insightful. And what you are doing is actually what we don't see a lot of companies trying to do, which is solve difficult problems. I think just in summary, really the gist and what I get is, and I think it's a very important point, where the motivation for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially successful ones, is, and I more say it, I see it as being more of a calling. I don't know, maybe I am biased, but really that's what I tend to see, that people, because you really need to have, there's a key word that CD mentioned, which is grit. And I am an entrepreneur in my own right, but that's one of the key traits that I found, that there are so many challenges, so many difficulties, that if you don't have that vision, that clear vision that motivates you or that drives you, I think if it's financial or others, it's easy to really give up or pursue a different alternative, right? So what you're trying to do is very, very difficult. Now, there's the typical question of what are the main challenges that you always face growing your business? I think that's a very common question that I would want to say. But I think for me, what is more instructive is challenges, they come and they go. How have you found yourself being able to surmount these challenges? And what do you think is the key mindset and the key trait that allows you to continue to be able to go through challenges, face them down, and then go back up as well? What do you think is the, how do you do that? I suppose is the question. How do you get, I mean, because when we look at Gambia, we know what the problems are. If you're in production, electricity is a problem. Gambia is an open, very liberal economy. Trade is a problem, where you have competitors. So I don't want to ask you that question because I can anticipate some of them. But what I want to know is what keeps you going despite all of these challenges and these hurdles that seemingly one would look at it and say, okay, what you want to do is not viable, give up.
That's a very important question, and I don't think I don't need to delve into the problems you have already tackled already. So I would just say our biggest win is, I have to say thank you to our clients, the Gambians, poultry farmers that are actually buying from us every now and then. They keep us going. Sometimes we just feel like parking the machine and letting it rest, but they keep calling us, letting us know that they need the feed. So we have to go as far as Mali, as far as Ivory Coast to source some of these raw materials. So which will bring me to answer your question. Raw materials is our main headache. I think the mistake we made as a company was thinking that there was enough raw material in Gambia to sustain our production. Because, like I said, it's only 2 tons. We have already commissioned a 4-ton machine, which is still lying down because of, little raw materials. We don't want to install it and facing the same issues that we face with the 2-ton our machine. So I have to say the big win is the clients that are knocking at our doors, because we're the only company that has the pelletized feed. Now the pelletized feed is a grade that contains, all the nutrients that the animal might need. So, when you have a mash form, the animal might pick 1 or 2 things that they need. Just like a child, when you give them food, they only pick what they need. But if you have the pelletized form, you will have the poultry or the ruminant animal will not have any choice but to eat the whole diet containing the nutrient, the energy, the protein, and the like. So now what we are trying to do to tackle this access to raw materials is we looked back home. What can we do here with our farmers? How can we work with our farmers, the government, to make sure these raw materials that we are looking at in Ivory Coast, Mali, Burkina Faso is found here in the Gambia? Because it's West Africa. We have access to the river. Like Mr. Taf said, we have the 40-kilometer coastal line. We have the water running from Banjul to Basse. So why not? So we worked with some partners and a group called the Master Farmers, which is made up of 96 farmers. We sponsored them with fertilizers, likewise seeds. The pre-agreement that we had was to buy back this harvest from them. Thankfully, it's going well. We're expecting the harvest by, let's say, January or February at best, after the drying. So this is one way of us making sure the supply chain is within.
and not beyond, because this will help us to have access to that raw materials. What I mean raw materials is corn. We mostly work with corn. We use corn for animal feed, corn for corn flour, for instant cereal for babies 6 months plus, and also for snacks as well. That's the corn puff and the popcorns. So in doing so, we are trying to create a supply chain within, one that the farmers will see themselves in, Uniglobal will benefit, provide more jobs, and of course, like we said, build and beef up the economy. So I think access to raw materials is our main problem, but also having commodity financing will be very important. This is where GAIN comes in and other partners that we have on board to make sure companies that are into manufacturing have access to commodity financing. That is raw materials that can sustain us for 3 months plus, because the market is here, trust me. Gambians only want quality. The moment they know they can get it within, they will not look elsewhere. As far as they know they cannot get it within, they have to look elsewhere, and we cannot blame them. They are just clients like us.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Njai. I think it's very, very instructive, and I think, I know we have a lot of young entrepreneurs who are moving into production, especially agro-processing, agro-marketing. I think this is a very, very important point that I want you to take note of. And I've actually been in had a conversation with Mr. Jabi before, because for FYI, he's actually a member of GAIN. And there was, I remember a young company that does agro-processing. He was considering investing in that company. And it's the same thing he said. He's like, I hope that they're thinking about when they start growing, where they're going to get their inputs from. And it's a great point, right? It's a really, really great point. And I just hope that, I know that's something that a lot of people here are looking to do, but is that being very forward-looking in what you are doing, right? Because part of, even in the startup story, we always talk about it, the idea of the minimum viable product, where you want to first establish whether you have a viable market, even before pumping in and investing a lot of money in it. So you always find a lot of entrepreneurs who are interested in something, and even before they validate whether that can work, they're already maybe investing or planning way ahead than they necessarily should. So I think that's just a great point that I wanted to flag. CD, I'll come to you. It's very similar. People look and then they see AfriCell, they see QCell. They say, so why INET? Because ordinarily everybody would think that AfriCell and QCell, you can outcompete them. Yet, you've started a new company called INET. I am very sure you have a lot of challenges that you face on a daily basis. What motivates you? I won't say what motivates you is as such, but there must be something, in my view, that gives you the drive to want to face up to these challenges and the belief that you can outdo an AfriCell, you can outdo a QCell. Similar to what Mr. Njai just mentioned. No one here is thinking about production. Everybody's just, Gambia is, everybody wants to import. Nobody wants to face up to the difficult problems because they know what the challenges are there waiting for them. Same with you. Why? Why do you think that you have what it takes to outcompete, some of the biggest firms in this country and surmount a lot of roadblocks that are already in front of you as well?
Sure. So maybe the best way to answer that question is this way, right? How many people here feel that internet is very expensive in Gambia? Okay. How many people here believe that internet is very unreliable in Gambia? You see? So that answers the question, right? And what motivated me to really look at internet service really well was 6 years ago, we were working on a project as part of INSYS Global, looking at educative tablets for schools, Jangle. And one of the key elements of that project was that we needed internet. And one of the most helpless moments of my life was we built the platform, we built the app, we did everything. And we just assumed that when we came to deployment, there would be internet available. And we got to that point, and school after school after school, we could only get very limited internet for premium. I remember one of them was with St. Joseph's in Lamin. this was in 2015, and we went to do the deployment, and we wanted to connect internet in Lamin, and every ISP, only one ISP said that they could provide internet in Lamin, and they were going to charge us 21,000 a month for, I think it was about 10 megabits per second, and it was only going to be available from 9 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening, in 2015, mind you, right? And I think for me, that was the indicator that there's clearly an opportunity, but also there is a problem to be solved. I mean, since we've entered the space, we started operating in 2016, and you will find, and we were indirectly mentioned in the Pooler report, in the 2018 Pooler report. We were not mentioned by name, but one of the key things that the regulator mentioned was that because of entry of some new ISPs into the market, internet prices had come down, but also coverage had improved. And you will find that, I mean, if you go around to all ISPs today in Gambia and you say you want internet, they'll give you a package 5 meg for 2,500. We pioneered that package, right? We were the ones, and since then, if you look at our 4G data launch, we've introduced new pricing, right? Where users are able to get 50 gigs for 1,500. They're able to also get fixed broadband, 5 megabits per second for 2,300. This is way below what existing operators are charging. So ultimately, our vision is simply this, to be able to get every Gambian connected at an affordable price. Now, obviously, there's massive challenges, and we operate in a very cash-intensive business. I mean, in our business, I mean, you can sink millions and millions of dollars in just getting coverage to one particular region. So it's a big challenge. But I mean, ultimately, we found that we've made significant milestones over the last 5 years, and we've actually now gone from that small player that is trying to enter the market to a player that's actually driving the market in a particular direction.
I'm actually moved to another question because I think, thank you. Yes, so I'm mindful of the time. Thank you, Menge, for the time check. The platform that we have here today, finance, obviously, is one of the key things that we are driving at. I'm very curious to know. Yes, I don't want to repeat the famous, if you talk about challenge, they say access to finance. I don't want that. Now, what I want to know is, in a finance-constrained environment, I'd like to know how you manage to finance your business and how you manage to reinvest in your business so that you can support and fund your growth. Fatima, I'll start with you. Because finance, yes, I agree, is a challenge for everybody. But the question I ask is, the businessman, we have men like Taf who, what they've done, I'm a personal beneficiary, right? Despite all the challenges, they've managed to grow businesses of note in this environment, operating in a finance-challenged environment. So there must be a way. Yes, it's not perfect, we don't have all, but how did they do it? And the same applies for you. I think your stories will be very, very instructive. So I'll start with you, Fatim. How did you do it on startup? And how did you manage to finance that meet your investment requirements over time?
Thank you. It's a very important question. And as a lady entrepreneur, I think my story can be relatable for many. I've been in business for 13 years, and my first time taking a loan was last year. And the key to that is living according to my means, watching out for my overheads, and saving. I have never been an entrepreneur that dependent on my salary or my pay with the business. I've always kept a side business or find other means, whether I'm a consultant for an institution or for a project, or whether I am running another business quietly on the side. I have always kept that differentiation so that my quality of life that I want to maintain is not dependent on my company. That's one. Secondly is saving. Whatever profits the company is making, it's being prepared to develop the next vision that can bring in revenue. So there's a part of each company that's the daily bread. It's like you have a stall and you have products. There's one product you have in your store that every time it sells, whether you put it at the back, whether you put it at the front, it sells. So that's what your company is known for, and that's what it would always constantly create revenue with. But then again, you have to know how to push what product forward and what product back. So if, let's say, we're in a period where, the budgets are being considered, people are closing down budgets or whatnot, then you know what you need to create and bring forward so that could sell and bring revenue. So it wasn't constantly being concentrated on all services at the same time with our company. It's always been magnifying, minimizing, bringing forward, bringing back, and just managing with that. For the financial aspect, like I said, we watch our overheads very well. And the key thing to that is by getting competent people to do the right job and paying them well. Most people who are very competent in their work are already very passionate and driven. So they would work long hours, they would deliver, and these are the kind of people that you want to make sure they get paid very well. So instead of having like 5, 6 employees that you're paying 3,000, 4,000, or 6,000, you have one employer that is well empowered, well paid, that has been really an aspect that has helped our business. And so, like I said, we don't put money around sitting, we use it to invest in new things that can bring more revenue. The initial investment, yes, we do. In being an entrepreneur, it's about making investments. It's about taking risk. So you have to make the investment. You have to put in first. But that's why you are disciplined, and that's why you're inconsistent, because what is at stake is too high for you. So I think one of the key traits about it financially is discipline and also consistency. I wake up every morning and I am with ACE like I am with my name Fatim. There's no difference. It's the same face every day. I show up for it because that is what I thrive by. So over to you. Yeah.
When it comes to mobilizing investment, I think there's a term we use in business, bootstrapping, right? You have an idea, you come up with a concept, you come up with a design, then you now try to figure out how to make that design work, right? And ultimately, you have to be willing to go through these cycles. I mean, you have young entrepreneurs here today that were pitching the idea, and each of them are in each phase of their design. But at some point, you need to go to people and say, hey, look, can you put money into my business? Now, a majority of people never sort of go beyond that point, which is, hey, are you willing to let somebody else buy a stake in your business, right? And are you then willing to put in place the necessary structures to ensure that that person's investment is protected? I mean, and ultimately, that's a key question you need to ask yourself. And I think the earlier panel this morning talked about it, is that you go to the bank to get a loan, you don't have any paperwork, you don't have any management accounts. There is no clear distinction between you, the business owner, and the one running the business, and the actual business accounts themselves. Meaning that if you want to buy lunch, you take it from the business account. If you want to buy clothes or buy a car, you take it from the business account. So, I mean, those are some of the first things any investor is going to look at. We've been successfully able, right now we are actually working on our second round of investment, where we are looking to raise additional capital to scale out our network. Now, when we started the business in INET in 2016, the initial investment was actually made from my funds, but also family investment, but also from our existing company, Insys Global, actually investing in the initial setup. But ultimately, it was a token amount. We had to prove that there was a market opportunity. And I remember we had to figure out how to set up a network, and we started with 3 base stations. One was in Banjul, the other one was in Lamin, and the other one was on Kailaba Avenue. Those were the 3 base stations we started with. And one of the towers was actually an old Gamtel tower. They were decommissioning the tower, and the scrap metal was lying around. We took the metal, we set it up, and that's how we got one of our towers, and then we built the other 2. That's how we started, right? I remember some of the installations, I would go with the team just to train them on how to do the installation. Here I was the CEO of another company, going with a new company, team from a new company to do an installation. And I remember one of the first customers saw me, went in and came back outside and was wondering what I was doing there. And I'm like, well, I'm training them. He was like, but can't you get somebody else? I said, no, I want them to do it a specific way, right? So I think we then started setting milestones. We grew the business over 4.5 years. And it was really towards the 5th year that we said, okay, look, we've come this far. Now is the time to decide. Are we going to go all in, or are we just going to stop it here? And I think then we said, okay, look, we were going to go the next step, and that's when we planned to launch our LTE network. And obviously now, that was when we then started engaging investors. So we actually identified a list of people that would be willing to invest. We went to those people, knocked on their doors and said, hey, we want you to put your money into the company because we want to scale it up. And at that point, those investors looked at several things. First thing everybody asked me was, where's your management accounts? What are the numbers? But secondly, what they did, and my brother said it best, is like, you know they're investing in you, right? And I said, yes, I know. But the reason they're investing in me is because they saw a track record, but they also saw somebody that that took something from zero. Because literally, we started INET with $1 million, and then we systematically built that up into the company it is today. And they were able to see that on paper, right? They were able to see every year audited accounts from an external auditor that showed that we built the business, right? And that was a key motivating factor for them to invest, you know? And from there, we were able to then also raise a lot of debt, equity, a lot of debt through the banks. But again, it was actually quite a smooth process, because when we knocked on the banks, they asked us for the documents, the management accounts, etc. They also were able to see that story, how we went from $1 million to several $1 million over time, right? And they were able to see that the value was retained in the business, and the value was actually growing year on year, right? And ultimately, that is how you do it, I believe. You need to be able to show a proven track record. You need to be able to show consistency, and you need to be able to show confidence, ultimately.
As a manufacturing company, Uniglobal, we experienced a lot of shocks because, like I mentioned, the raw materials are mostly from the Gambia here. We have to fetch it elsewhere. So let's say something has happened along the way or in that particular market, we'll have to dig deep. We'll have to contact our suppliers. So our suppliers are our main financiers. We have established this agreement with most of them, especially components like corn, granite cake from the GGC, and soya bean as well. These are components that we need to stay producing. No matter what our financial status are, we have to get access to these raw materials. So we have created this channel where we have a group of suppliers for every commodity that we might need every now and then. And it is important for me to mention that we are a multi-manufacturing company. Some people even confuse themselves of what we do. Even sometimes I also get confused. But to put it in a very specific manner, we work with corn. We turn corn into animal feed, ruminant, and poultry. We also turn it into snacks, corn puff, popcorns, and the like. We also turn it into instant cereals. We also turn it into corn flour. So now, to make sure that we continue having this supply line, we have to make sure we're dealing with farmers, suppliers, not only within the Gambia, but as far as Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Ivory Coast. So even if our wells are dry, we have saved for the rainy days to make sure these raw materials are still coming and the machines are still operating. And of course, if we make sales, we'll always be able to solve the shocks that we're receiving from financial aspect. Also, The other main issue that affects our production is during the third quarter. That is during the rainy season. The market is always bad because you have most poultry farmers have to wait until the rains have slowed down, and also the trade also slows down for the goods that we produce mostly. So we capitalize and make sure before that third quarter hits in, we have put as much sales as possible. We have stocked as much raw materials as possible to sustain us throughout the next fourth and fifth quarter before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyai. I think those answers were extremely instructive. And I think the number one lesson, and it's for me, it's for all the entrepreneurs here, is resourcefulness. I think that's the number one thing that I got out of what they said. Yes, Gambia, we all know we have a lot of challenges in terms of access to finance. But that does not mean that you cannot get financing when you need it. Or that doesn't mean that you cannot find other avenues to be able to finance your business. We've heard Fatim saying, start with your capital, be disciplined, make sure that all the proceeds, you're disciplined in reinvesting it into the business. See, they talked the idea about bootstrapping, similar concept as well, but all the resources that you have, whether it's you, whether it's friends, whether it's family, start there, prove that you can do something, and then more will follow. And there's another key point that Mr. Njai mentioned, which is supplier financing, especially for a lot of the big traders. I think it's a key point. There are a lot of big traders who've built fortunes with supplier financing, where a supplier will give you 60 days. And a very instructive story here, and I'll end with this one. Unfortunately, we haven't had time. I would have liked to give the panelists at least time to give one statement, final word of encouragement. Let's see, maybe Menga will allow. But it's very instructive on the supplier financing. I used to work in a bank. I can tell you stories of a lot of Gambians who've actually had better opportunities. Because we always talk about how Gambians, how the retail and wholesale trade is dominated by foreigners, and rightly so, isn't it? And I can tell you that, we have an entrepreneur par excellence here, he will tell you, a lot of wealth is actually generated within the trading sector. If you look at Gambia, the bulk of the wealth is generated there. Do you know that Gambians have had equal opportunities in trading? In my time working in a bank, I can tell you stories of people who had supplier lines, 7 million, 10 million. They completely mismanaged it. Yet we have Indians, Lebanese, and others who come, and for me this is all good, no word is there, but people who maybe didn't even have the opportunities. Some of them came to Gambia with new culture, but it's the discipline, where all the excess you are generating, you are actually being able to reinvest it in there. You have Gambians who had supplier lines, not only do they not pay back their supplier, they end up owing banks, owing things. So what does that speak to? It speaks to, I think, lack of resourcefulness and the lack of discipline. It's very, very, very important. So the final word that I would say is, even though, yes, we are in a very resource-constrained environment, we have entrepreneurs who have managed to build businesses to scale. How did they do it? If you look them and you study them, you'll find that there are some unique traits, and I think some of them have been mentioned here, and I think that is always very important. So we should never just focus on the headlines, access to finance, like we always hear when we go to such platforms, but we need to be resourceful, and we need to be focused on solving problems and delivering value for our customers. Once you have that, time is changing. You have institutions like GAIN now who are not there for when some of us were starting our businesses. So there's more and more opportunities coming, but there will never be enough opportunities to be able to meet your need. You need to be resourceful, focused, and you need to solve and address problems. Thank you very, very much to our esteemed panelists here. We really appreciate your time. Yes.
No. But it's luck, destiny. I think there was divine intervention. We're on the same page. He said no. Yes, for the most part. But yeah, God played a big role in everything. Now, but what is luck really? But who is organizing the meet? Accident. Okay, I understand your context. In that context, I would agree, but for me, I said no only because I believe that there's a supreme being or maker that organizes things. Yeah.
What did you say?
I hope, look, for a debate, it's quite interesting. And I will quote the late Hatib Jane. Things are in hierarchies, huh? You think I'm a very successful businessman, and I've also looked up to him. And you know what Hatib says? Hatib says 95% of life or business is luck. 5% is efforts. Now, if you don't put in that 5% efforts, you can lose the luck. But most of the time, business happens through luck. Maybe we can have a fireside chat.
Does luck mean worsak?
Worsak, yes.
Okay, worsak, I agree. Luck.
So well, luck is worsak.
So this is actually interesting, just 30 seconds. One of my uncles says that a person cannot create opportunity. You can only be in a position to take advantage of it when it comes. So, and that getting ready for that opportunity is the work. So, in a sense, I'm in agreement with you, and that's why I said yes and no. That yes, it was luck that they had that conversation. But had you not done everything prior to that, right, you would not have been able to exploit the opportunity. They would have come to you and they would have said, Uncle Koto Nakala, Nakala. Why you would not have been able to execute that opportunity. So, and that is why it's yes and no. Yes, there is that divine intervention to create the opportunity. But the question is, when that opportunity comes, knocking, are you ready? Right? And that is where a lot of people fall by the wayside. The opportunity comes, and they did not do the prerequisite to take advantage of the opportunity. And for me, that opportunity is also timing, right? I mean, you could have a phenomenal idea, and you could have all the prerequisites, but that timing is not right for it to take off. And then a year later, you see some other guy hit the road, and then, whoo, the plane flies. And then you are the one sitting and saying, hi, this is my idea, so it's complicated.
Yeah, Sidi, sorry, Madam MC. The reason why I'm bringing this, we've got young entrepreneurs who are coming up. But most of the time, luck knocks on your door, but you don't make those efforts. The difference between the two of you, both of you will get the luck, but you've made more efforts than him, and that's why you're successful. So the advice really for those behind is that whenever it comes, grab it. And you say, take the risk. I mean, when it came up, I could have said, oh, Nigeria is too dangerous. I will not go there. Oh, Nigeria, Port Harcourt, whatever. But it's that one now. After the luck comes in knocking on your door, what appetite of risk do you have to go on board and take it from there? But most of the time, business happens through luck.
In that context, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. We've agreed. sorry for hijacking this, huh? Done this for a while, that's why I'm
Clearly, we need a brunch for bosses so we can discuss if this is luck, hard work, dedication, or effort. But thank you, Uncle Taff. I think you always have insightful contributions to share. And thank you, Aliu, for, don't worry, you can keep it. And thank you, Aliu, for the very insightful panel as well. And thank you to the other panelists, Mr. Sidi Bensouda, CEO, Intis Global, and Ms. Fatim Baje, CEO of CEO of ACE Communications and Executive. It looks like we are on track to close the program at 5. I know everyone is tired, so we're trying to rush through the last program agenda items so that we could complete in time. So next, we are going to have the Entrepreneur Toolkit, and the first presentation will be done by Ms. Aji-Ami Sise, a partner at AB&Co. She is going to be doing the presentation on the importance of corporate governance for companies. Aji-Ami.
Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I know you're all tired. It's been an exceptionally long day. So I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. My name is Aji-Ami Sise. I am actually an associate from Ami Bensouda & Co. Not yet a partner, but I mean, hopefully very soon. I am stepping in for Mr. Aziz Bensouda. I'm a substitute. I know what you're all thinking. I am a substitute, but let's think about it like football. I like to believe that all the key players are substitutes. You know, they sit around and wait, and then they come in to change the nature of the game. So I am that substitute. So hopefully I do the presentation justice. Okay, so I'm sure as you all know, Ami Bensouda & Co. Is a local law firm set up since 1995. It's one of the most experienced local firms in the Gambia in corporate transaction work. We're a team of 11 lawyers with different areas of expertise, and we assist local and international firms and advise on matters of corporate compliance. Corporate governance is a key area of law, and it's one of the first things that an investor would look at before deciding to invest in your business. As Mr. Bensouda mentioned in his presentation, an investor is interested really to know a track record of a business before they decide to take the leap of actually investing in the business. They want to know your track record. They want to know whether you're operating in a financially prudent manner. So in essence, that is corporate governance. It is the transition from a small, informal business to a company that's incorporated with a board of directors, a management team, and shareholders and investors, and they work as a team. So as you see the session outline, I'd go through it very quickly. What is corporate governance? The role and responsibilities of the board of directors in corporate governance, the duties of directors, powers and responsibility, and the current trends in corporate governance in the Gambia, the corporation versus the company. So next slide, please. All right, so a corporation is a mechanism established to allow different parties to contribute capital, expertise, and labor for their mutual benefit. Essentially, a corporation is governed by a board of directors, as I mentioned, that oversees the top management with the concurrence of the shareholders. So as I mentioned, we have so many young entrepreneurs in the room. When you start up a business, there are three possible ways in which your business can operate. You could choose to operate as a sole proprietorship, or as a partnership, or as a company. If you choose to operate as a company, then there are certain rules and regulations within which you must exist. There are certain categories of businesses that can only be carried out as a company. So, for example, banks and non-banking financial institutions must operate as companies, insurance companies as well. They can't operate as sole proprietorships or as partnerships. So further, the law also provides that an association of more than 20 people cannot carry on a business for gain unless they are incorporated. So I believe essentially this is to protect investors and protect creditors so that there is a buffer against which they have some sort of security that whatever financing they put into a business, they're able to get back in case the company is being wound up or in case of liquidation. Obviously, there's an exception, legal practitioners. You could have a group of more than 20 legal practitioners who come together to operate as a business without the need to incorporate, and accountants as well. There's so many accounting firms, and there's an exception in the law allowing accountants to operate without the need to incorporate. All right, so the next slide, please. So corporate governance, in essence, is the system of rules, practices, and processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. So like I mentioned, it involves balancing the interests of the company with the many stakeholders, shareholders, senior management, executives, customers, suppliers, financiers, and the community. So to become a member of a company, you must have subscribed as a member in the memorandum of the company, or you must have some proprietary interest in the company, perhaps maybe through the purchase of shares. So you're a shareholder in the company. However, not anyone can become a member in a company. There are certain categories of persons which the law restricts from operating as members of a company. So I think maybe this is important to know for young entrepreneurs who are thinking of maybe transitioning from a small and medium-sized enterprise into a more corporate and a more formal structure. So a person of an unsound mind, for example, cannot be a member of a company. A person of undischarged bankrupt, a minor, and a corporate entity in liquidation as well. A company which has entered into liquidation because it is unable to pay its debts as it's due cannot be a part of your company, for example, if you decide on incorporating a company. So apart from the members of the company, you also have the board of directors, and these are appointed by the members and are charged with the responsibility of providing direction and overseeing the management team of a company. So it is essential that you have a board which operates independently from the members of the company, and having that degree of independence ensures that they're not concerned with the day-to-day management of the company, but that they're looking at it as a going concern. So then apart from the board, at the first annual general meeting of your company, the board would appoint a team of auditors who would look at your books of account. The auditors would then declare at the annual general meeting whether the accounts of the company give a true and fair view of the company's financial position. This is important, as Mr. Bensouda had mentioned, where you have potential investors who want to invest in your company. You must show them documents, you must show them your books of accounts so that they have the degree of confidence to invest in your business. So bad corporate governance can cast a doubt on a company's operations and its ultimate profitability. So it's a key component for your investor relations. The first thing an investor wants to see when they walk through your doors is that, oh yes, this company is being prudently managed, and they have proper books of accounts, they have auditors, they hold annual general meetings, they have a board of directors who are independent and are looking at the, guiding the direction towards which the company is going. So most companies strive to have exceptional corporate governance. For some investors, it is merely not enough to be profitable. You must be able to show that your company is being prudently managed. So to the next slide, quickly. So good corporate governance creates transparent rules and controls, provides guidance to leadership, and aligns the interests of shareholders, directors, and management and employees. Next slide, please. All right. So yep, just a brief overview. Like I said, the different organs in a company. So it refers to the relationship amongst the board of directors, top management, and shareholders in determining the direction and performance of the corporation. Next slide. All right. So perfect. So generally, the board and the directors of the company with all a duty of care, skill, and competence. The board is required to direct the affairs of the corporation, but not to manage them, like I said. The board is not supposed to be involved in the day-to-day management of the company. They're supposed to generally direct and look at the company as a going concern. Policy and strategic management, so monitor developments inside and outside the corporation, evaluate and influence management proposals, decisions, and actions, and initiate and determine the corporation's missions and strategies. So it is important that the members of the board of directors of a company, they have the technical knowledge, you know, and that they have a vision for where you want the company to go, since their role is such a critical role. Next slide, please. I'm being very quick. Directors' duties. So the directors of a company have statutory duties, and these are duties that are created by an act of parliament, and they have common law duties and equitable duties. So within the Gambia, we have a Companies Act of 2013, which sets the statutory framework for how companies incorporated in the Gambia should operate. And in the Companies Act, there's a section which deals with the different duties that a director has towards the company. So a duty of care and skill, duty to avoid conflicts of interest, and duty not to accept benefits from third parties as regards things done or omitted by them before they cease to be a director. Next slide. Almost the final slide. That is the final slide. So quickly, members of the company would have rights, and that rights should not be infringed by the company. And in the event that they are, the Companies Act provides that they have recourse to seek redress from the courts. So for example, as a young entrepreneur, if you were to set up a company and the company is being managed in a way that you're not pleased with, or you think the directors of the company have committed some wrong to the company, you do have a right to seek redress from the courts. Although there has been, you know, a lot of legal debate as to whether you have a right to sue or whether the company has a right to sue, since the company has a life of its own. But it is now settled. I know for a lot of people, they just want to know whether they can do anything, where the company has gotten so big and the board of directors have committed some wrong, but the company started with your idea. You know, you came up with the idea to start up a company, but it has gotten so big and you're kind of losing control of how things are being run. So you do have recourse in company law to sue and to seek redress and damages from your board of directors. I hope I didn't bore you with a lot of legal jargons. I know it's the end of the day, and I tried my best to go through that as fast as possible. And I hope you were able to learn one or two things. I'm happy to take on any questions, if any. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ajami. And next in line, we have Alu Senghor. Are you set, Mr. Senghor? So Mr. Senghor is doing a presentation on understanding investor requirements and how to close an investment deal. So if we have the presentation up, Mr. Senghor, can you please join us on stage, please? And then
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm sure everybody's really, really tired. Firstly, I would like to say a big thank you for sticking with us until this time. It's 5 o'clock, and you are still with us. So we're going to make this very short. This is one of the last sessions that we had planned for today. And I think what I'm hoping is some of the questions that were on the floor during some of the sessions, we'll be able to clear them up during this session. So please, controlling the PowerPoint, can we move to the next slide, please? Great. So the main object of this presentation is giving you some insight on what it takes to be able to raise external financing and to be able to close an investment deal. And here, I am looking at investment from the point of view of an angel investor, which is an institution like GAIN. And the investment that we do is very different from what someone would consider going to a bank and applying for a loan. Most of what we do is longer term investment. A lot of time it is equity investments. So if you can see this, I don't know how to call it, table or whatever we have, this depiction that we have here, this is usually where you tend to find GAIN operating, where we are investing in most of the investment that we provide is either equity, quasi-equity, or equity-based instruments. What does this mean? It means that there are a lot of people who are interested in investing. One of the first things that is always very, very important is you need to really know the kind of capital that is good for you. I think it's very, very important. There are a lot of people who need capital. A lot of it is working capital financing. A lot of the times, maybe your best bet is to look towards a bank to help support that funding need. There are a lot of people sometimes, they want to raise financing even when it's long-term. They think that they need debt maybe when they need more equity. Maybe sometimes they think they need more equity when potentially does better than that. So the first thing out is understanding what kind of and the types and sources of capital that we have. In this market, long-term capital is a challenge. And I think we spent the whole day today speaking on it. And fundamentally, structurally, there are a lot of limitations. And that is part of what GAIN is looking to address. The market for long-term investment, especially equity-based investments, to provide alternatives for young entrepreneurs who want to raise capital to grow their businesses, to invest in their businesses. I think the Trust Bank MD presentation today was very good. I think if there's a key message that came out of her presentation is that banks cannot provide the type of financing that a lot of young entrepreneurs need. A lot of young entrepreneurs need long-term, more or less risk capital. Banks fund themselves primarily through deposits. So because of that, it's short-term in nature, and they don't want to take on too much risk because those deposits, they have to pay them back. They're guaranteed deposits. They have to pay them back. So because of that, what kind of capital is open to you? And I'm here, when I'm saying you, I'm talking about most of the entrepreneurs who are here present. A lot of the times, it is the longer-term type of investments, what you would find in an institution like GAIN. So what does it take to unlock that type of capital. I will speak a little bit more on that. Next slide, please. Great. So, in the startup verse, if I can here, in the ecosystem that you have, and here we are speaking within the realm of kind of long-term capital. What do we have? A lot of things you see, and here I'm being very specific. I'm not trying to look at what we do internationally, globally. I'm trying to be very specific to our environment in the Gambia and what we generally see. Firstly is there's a lot of competition funding available. And this is not a bad thing at all. Because especially for young startups, small funding pots, a lot of the time, and anybody who does a business, they will tell you, the first line of funding is as serious and you're bootstrapping. Family, friends, etc. This falls into that pot of capital, actually. And here in Gambia, there tends to be quite a bit of competition and grant funding windows that are available. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're coming up, I'll always say, do look out for this. Because some of the initial investments that you want to do, it's an immediate opportunity for you. Now, what is not necessarily good is always being stuck at that level. Whenever there's a grant, there's a competition, you're always applying. You're always applying. No. The idea is that you graduate from that and then you move to the next step. And even the people who provide this, generally, if you've benefited from this kind of funding before, they are not keen to give you this kind of funding again, right? But it's an opportunity that is very common here. This is the sweet spot that we operate in GAIN, especially equity and debt. Equity represents ownership. I will not go into the details of what it means, but equity, debt is understandable. It's a loan. Why equity is ownership or quasi-equity, I won't go into details, but it is something that you invest in a business, you are a shareholder in a business, you own the business. And I'll speak a little bit on what that means. What we also do, and a lot of times, if I'm being honest, at GAIN, this is our preferred investment instrument, which is called hybrid instruments. And here you have what you call, maybe you've heard of them, convertible notes and convertible loans. If I'm being honest, I used to work at GAIN as a manager. I am also an angel investor in GAIN. And a lot of the companies that come to GAIN want to raise capital. I always encourage them to consider convertible instruments as opposed to equity. Because, I'm sure it's very common, a lot of startups will tell you, you come and someone tells you maybe they're putting $10,000 in your business and say they want 50% of your company, or they want 20, 30% of your company. As a rule of thumb, as a young entrepreneur, you don't want to give up too much of your business. And I'll say that if you are raising a first round of financing and somebody is telling you they want more than 10% of your business, as a rule of thumb, that's something I would probably want to walk away. Why? Because there are a number of reasons. Firstly, when the business is very young, very early, it's very hard to put a definite proper valuation on the business. So what tends to happen, you are valuing the business very low. And that can be counterproductive for a number of reasons. One, it means that dilution, what you give up in terms of equity, becomes too much. Two, you raise a round of financing. The starting point of valuation will always be the old valuation. So if, let's say, a year ago you raised money at a valuation of 100,000, a year later because you're always raising money. You're always raising money. You go through several rounds of financing as you grow to scale. But a year later you come and now you say, oh, I valued my business at 1 million. It's very hard to justify that when a year before you valued it at $100,000. This is something you have to be very, very mindful of. And the idea of not being diluted too much. Because if you're diluted too much and you know that you'll be raising additional rounds of funding several times in future, by the time you know it, you've given away all your business. And entrepreneurship, especially early stage financing, the key is the entrepreneur. And when you start over diluting the entrepreneur, even their motivation, you kill it. Their drive, you kill it. It's very important. And this is conversations that we always have at the level of GAIN. Even when I was there, some of the angels are, oh, no, this business. I'm like, no, stick to your guns. Sometimes you have to be ready to walk away from a deal if it's not good enough for you, right? So a lot of what I tend to prefer is hybrid because it's a mix of the debt and the equity. What it does is it allows you to not place an immediate value on your business, but give investors an option to convert into equity once you reach certain milestones that allow you to be able to target a higher valuation range. I think it's very, very important. We cannot go into specifics, but I'm just mentioning that so you can flag it, and these are things that we hope to engage you more on in future, right? But I think it's very, very important to understand the different types of capital that we have. Another very important one that I'll do before I leave is the de-risking structures, ITC GAIN. And here I'll point out, GAIN, we've done 2 investments to date so far. There's one that was Daraja, you've heard of Daraja, I believe Ms. Ben probably maybe referenced it. She benefited from a co-investment scheme of about $8,000. In all, she got a total envelope of $16,000, but only $8,000 was actually, part of it was equity, part of it was a loan. What are the benefits of that? One, this is a grant. So automatically it allows the entrepreneur to get more money, yet the dilution that they were going to face is a factor of the investment that the angels did. So not only does it afford the angel or the company dilution protection, it gives them additional resources that will help them to meet their investment requirements, right? And it's an added benefit from getting a GAIN investment. I think this is something that is super, super key that we are very grateful for the ITC for. We've done one, the second one, which is Indil. They raised about $25,000 from the network. They got an additional $10,000. So in all, they got a total envelope of $35,000. Now, what does this mean? This means that that grant is only unlocked when angels make an investment. And I think it's also a very, very novel structure, not only for the companies and GAIN, but also for the funding agents like ITC who provide grants, because this allows for hopefully better targeting of grants to ensure are going to entrepreneurs and individuals who will make the most of these funds. So this is something that is also very present in the market that we see a lot of. I think if you look at agri sector, there's a lot of these matching grant schemes as well that are very, very popular. Next slide, please. Great. So here, just high level, as I there's equity and there's debt. They're different instruments and mean different things. Here, I've just outlined, which you can run through and read for yourself, what the 3 key differences are between debt and equity. Equity is ownership. As I said, it dilutes you. Once someone is an equity partner, that means they have a say in your business. Sometimes, depending on how much of your business they own, they may want to have nomination on your board of directors. Sometimes they may even want to play a say, have a greater say in management. But I think the fundamental principle is that once you take other people's money, you have to be ready to cede a bit of control. And sometimes even you have maximum control of your business, but you have to have annual general meetings. You have to have financial statement. If you're an entrepreneur, you own your business, as CD was talking about early on, I think, you can get away with not even having other investments in your business. That flexibility is taken away, because some of them even sometimes in the reporting obligations that you need to have. So I think that's a key thing that you need to start getting used to and getting your mind set around. The degree of risk to the founder that alone, there are fixed interest payments that you have to make. Equity gives you a little bit of flexibility. Most of the payments are dividend or when they exit the business or there's some sort of liquidity event. Closing an equity deal takes time. Even with GAIN, I'll say a minimum of 6 months from when there's the first touch point and the interaction with investors to when you complete the process and a check is written. Usually it takes a lot of time. A lot of times it's much quicker to be able to close a loan agreement. Loan agreement, as I said, they are fixed in, so it's riskier for the company. You don't have to cede control. Usually much, much quicker. Some banks, within a week, they can give you a decision, as long as you meet all the requirements that have been asked for as well. So much, much faster to negotiate. However, a lot of young, growing businesses, if I'm being honest, you don't need that. What you need is patient capital, long-term capital. So I give you my money as an angel, like for example, GAIN, all the companies that we've invested in. We give them the money and we go and sit away. And we allow them to do their thing. Yes, we play an active role in supporting, in governance, etc. But really, the entrepreneur is in full control of their business, and they have the flexibility and the latitude to be able to do the investments that they need to make and allow those investments to bear fruit. You close a loan agreement today, next quarter, depending on which loan, maybe sometimes the next month, you already have to start servicing interest. Even if you use that money, unless they give you some sort of moratorium. And sometimes that is very, very hard to negotiate in country. Next slide, please. Great. So I touched on this product earlier, and this is one of the most important points of the presentation. You need to know what type of capital you need. It's important. It's very, very important. Because what happens is, if you are talking to an investor who doesn't have the type of capital that you need, you can even easily get discouraged. Because there is no pitch that you can pitch. There is no sale you can make. Doesn't matter how that you can do to convince that investor to invest in your business. It's very hard to do. Why? Because effectively it's apples and oranges. It's very, very difficult because depending on which stage of, or which type of entrepreneur that you're talking about, there are certain things that are no-go areas for them. So at the earlier stage of businesses, this is when businesses are at their most, are very risky, extremely risky. So what you tend to find is a lot of ideation where you haven't done anything yet. A lot of times it's the idea. It's very hard to get somebody to believe in your idea when they don't have, there's nothing that you can show. They will ask you, okay, where are your financial statements? You haven't seen. Show me your bank accounts. You haven't seen. You don't have that. It's still an idea. So unless that person is very close to you, believes in you, you've done something that makes them think that, yes, this person, he can make a success of this, there's a high probability that what you need to be thinking is that for me to finance this business, I need to be able to bootstrap. I need to be able to pluck money from my own pocket and invest in this business. Even if you don't have money, maybe you're investing time in coming up with a concept, etc. All of that is value. But the idea is the fact that just off of an idea, you go do the rounds. Some people go see banks. Some people even go see venture capital firms, etc. to raise money. Those people, you don't meet their criteria, in short, right? The next stage is seed, startup. So you've started, you have an idea, maybe you have a product, you still need to continue to invest and grow this idea. Still at this stage, it is still very, 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 very early. Because maybe even if you have sales to show, it's not much. Even if you have some traction, it's not much. Still, who's going to believe in you? There's a higher probability that it's very, very hard to find somebody who's prepared to take on that risk. So you will need to continue to believe in yourself. At this stage, you may also have people who are close to you who believe in you. So at this stage as well, the higher probability of success is that for financing will be here. Now, when you get to the early stage, this is angel investor territory. Yeah? When you have some sort of minimum viable product. Yeah? You have, if you are selling, for example, let me see. I'm trying to find a great example. Okay, Ndei Awa is there, Nature's Gift Care. Ndei Awa has been in business for a while. Now, she's, I think, at that stage where she's looking to what? Even transition and grow her business. She's looking to go have her own factory. So what does that mean? That she has products, services, she has a market that she has been working with, she has been cultivating. That doesn't mean that her product journey is done. Yeah? But it means that she has reached certain milestones that make her think that, you know what, maybe there's a bigger market out there for me. Maybe this profile of customers that I'm getting, maybe I am around 1,000 customers. And I want to see whether my idea that this type of customer, there's a larger market for me there. This is when you start coming to people like angel investors, where you tell them, okay, this is where I am. Over the next 2 years, this is where I want to get to. Yeah? This is the right ideal stage for angel investment and sometimes venture capital, but usually not venture capital, if I'm being honest. The venture capital usually comes to at the next stage, which is what? They call it the product market fit. Now, effectively for me, this is when you are trying to go out for a big market. This is when you say, trying to get more or less a mass market product offering. This is when you tend to see that businesses tend to start to break even at this stage. And a lot of times, this is when VCs start to become interested. Most VCs, by the time they come, they want to see that the business has broken even, right? That now you have a plan that I'm going out for, okay, I have this product, I want to give 1,000, I want to get to about 1,000 customers. No. By this time, they're saying, okay, all right, can you conquer the greater Banjul area? And then that starts to resonate with people like that. There's a bigger market that you are going out there for to see whether the product that you've been developing and tested, that you've kind of identified a customer profile for, is there a larger market out there for me? Sorry, that's done. Now you've done that. Can I go and get this market? And this is when you tend to find them coming in. And here, a lot of times, I think it's hard to give numbers, but usually you'd find that this tends to be at least in other million investments, at least $1 million and above, you tend to find. But it can vary according to context, but you tend to find there. And then there's the later stage, where these are mature businesses. So even CD is not there yet. He's laughing, but even CD is not yet there. But here, what happens at this stage? This is when you have, for example, people, all the early investors in the business. And here, I think with this thing, it's always great to find a good example. All the early investors in the business, VC firms, etc., you've grown the business to a certain level where now the only way up is either you need to sometimes go into new markets, sometimes you need to potentially even buy up new firms, and a lot of times is you are getting people that accompany to the point where you can create some sort of liquidity event, if I could say, and that is what all the early investors up to this stage, whether it's a VC investor, individual investor, you would have a company like a private equity company that would say, you know what, I want to buy you guys out. And I want to buy you guys out because with this product that you have, maybe they even probably invested in another company that does something similar to what you do. But you are doing it better than this company is doing it. I would rather buy you, eat up that company, and they also have a timeline. They're looking to create a liquidity event of their own. Because this company is at the stage of development where maybe in another 3 years, 5 years, I can do an IPO, I can go public. Create their own liquidity event, where it's a company where it's like an AfriCell, a mass market brand that even individual retail investors would want to put their money in. That means that the company has to have a lot of clear earnings visibility. Because for an average retail investor like myself, if I have my $10,000, $1,000, for me to want to risk it in a firm, I have to be fairly certain that that firm would have what it takes to give me my money back in terms of dividends, or allows me to be able to trade my share on a traded stock exchange, and I can get some sort of liquidity from it. So when you are, and here I'll give a poignant example. There's a company which I would say falls more in the probably seed early stage. We are almost done. They went to raise money, a friend of mine who runs a private equity firm, just to show you the disconnect. When the private equity firm sent him his due diligence questionnaire, 20, 30-page thing, I mean, he was automatically discouraged, automatically. Because all of the information required in the due diligence questionnaire, most of them, he didn't meet them. They were asking you maybe 5 years financial statements, maybe you've been operating for 2. You see your point? So the idea is, if that was your immediate point of reference to go and raise for money, you'll probably leave there discouraged because they'll laugh at you. You see? So it's really, really important to understand the different stages of capital and where you stand the best chance of raising money. It's really important. Because sometimes you think that you have a bad idea or you're going to raise money. No, maybe you are marketing to the wrong audience. And that is why we always tell young entrepreneurs, angel investing, this is what we're here for. This is what we're here for. We are people who understand the risks that early stage businesses face. You are people a lot of times who have the sectoral knowledge and expertise in what you are operating, who would understand you better than an average person who's never even operated in your business before. It's very, very important to get that kind of investment in your business. Last slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Great. I'm going to touch just on this before I go to the gain investment process, which is where I would like to end. Again, these are just some small key terms that I want you all to be very familiar with, because there are aspects that are critical to you being you see the term investment ready. I think you heard that earlier on today. There was a question on it. What does that mean to be investment ready? These are just some considerations that you'll have to go through to be able to raise. First thing, for example, is business registration. A lot of people, their businesses are sole proprietorships. They are an extension of you. Even if you wanted to raise investment, it would be very hard for you to, because you don't have the right vehicle to be able to raise an investment. You should always consider that. What is that? Mostly it's limited liability companies that have the ability to be able to issue shares that can raise money. So you need to be aware of that. You need to understand what term sheets are. Yeah? You need to understand that. We can't go into the details of it, but all of this, I'm putting them out there because I would encourage you to read up on it. You heard that MD of Trust Bank saying that you cannot be a high-level leader and business leader if you are not financially literate. It's a necessary condition. If you want to grow a certain type of business, you can be a local, I don't want to turn the Sarahulis, the local business, be a very successful business, but there's a high probability that once that person passes away, doesn't matter how successful, the business probably passes away with him. It's just an extension of the individual. But what you are looking to build is an entity of its own. Because under the law, a limited liability company is a body, it's an entity of its own. It's a legal entity of its own, right? Always be mindful of that. Term sheets, they outline the material terms. Usually, this is where it starts. You start, even in the gain process. After you talk, you agree, you pitch, oh, I like your idea. Where it starts that you negotiate is the lead investor will have to come up with a term sheet, high-level heads of terms that you now need to negotiate on. It's very, very important. But if you take your time to agree on a very comprehensive term sheet, it makes it easier to close out investments. Business valuation, we've talked about it earlier. If you want to raise equity, how much is your business worth? It's something that you have to do. There are a lot of different value methodologies we cannot speak to, but GAIN does regular trainings on this. It's very, very important to understand how to value your business and what a business valuation does for you. Due diligence is confirming the basis. And this speaks to the point, again, that they were talking, you need to de-risk your business. If you say that my business is doing this, show me. That's what they'll ask you. You always say, where's your business plan? Where are your financial statements, etc. These are the things that come up in due diligence. Because you tell you, I was like, yeah, I've sold $1 million dollars worth of product. When you are, they will not take your word for it. Before they write you a check, they will have to come and confirm. Either they will look at your financial statements. Sometimes that's not enough because the statements are not detailed, comprehensive enough. And in our environments, not everybody trusts that. They will probably try to ask you for a bank statement. It's now checking your accounts, things of that sort. So what does that mean? It means little things like, I think what Sidi mentioned earlier. You have a business, but you can just pay yourself out anytime you want. Sometimes income comes, you don't pass it through your business accounts, maybe you pass it into your personal account. These are all things that are bad habits that if you want to grow your business to scale, you need to already start thinking that eventually if I want to have investors, I need to go through due diligence and pass due diligence. Shareholders agreement, convertible loan agreements, these are agreements that you need to sign off on to be able to secure an investment, whether it's equity or whether it's a convertible loan. Next slide, please. Great. Go. Okay. These are general. Here, one of the keys that we talk is, what are the keys to securing external investment? Obviously, some of these things are very intuitive, so I don't want to speak to it. But there's one that I want to highlight. This one in the middle. You see this one? Integrity. It's really important. Especially at this stage that we do in angel investment. Angel investment, the business is still at so much of an early stage that sometimes, if I've been honest, a lot of times, how well the business is doing is not the main motivating factor for the person making the investment. A lot of times in early stage investment, people are investing in the entrepreneur because they believe in you. Seriously. They're investing in you because they believe in your idea, they believe in you, and then they believe that you can make something out of your idea. So that's why your personal integrity, once you lose it, is gone. It's very, very important. If people, doesn't matter how smart you are, cannot trust you, cannot believe that even if you are successful in growing your business, any value will accrue to them from that growth, then you'll find it very, very hard to be able to raise any capital, right? All these other things are true, and I agree, you need them. are very good personal traits for entrepreneurs to have, but I would like to highlight integrity. Integrity is something that any investor, when they want to risk, because they're risking their capital, they're giving it to you in the hope that they can get something back. They are not going to be the daily stewards of capital. It's going to be you. So that means that they need to believe in you, that they need to believe that you will give them value. Last one. Next one, please. Yes. So what are the other key drivers of an investment? And I think part of that we've talked about it today. Obviously, there are market factors that allow you to assess the economics of it. Is this a potentially solution that you can have, that you can do profitably? Is it possible for this thing to grow to scale? What's the team that you have? What is your value proposition, your track record, your financials? All of these things are elements that any investor, whether it's early stage, later stage, are all things that hold true. Next slide, please. Good. So required documentation, we've already mentioned these already. Next slide. Please go, let's go. Next one, and next one. I won't talk on this. Next one. Yes, final. Next slide, please. Great. So this is where I would like to end the presentation today. And isn't it today's session, isn't it? This is the last one. Yes. So there are a lot of potential ways to raise long-term finance in the country. But if you ask me, GAIN is one of the few structured markets for early stage long-term capital. So I think it would be a miss if I leave this stage without speaking on what GAIN investment process looks like. Yeah? The first stage and first point of call is the pre-screening that we do. So we tend to invite companies to come and pitch to our angels. But even before we get to that point, there are a number of things that we do. Firstly, we like to profile opportunities that are in line with the interest of our angels. So that means that we don't want to bring any company to come and pitch when we know that there isn't anybody who's interested either in your sector, in your opportunity, for a number of reasons. So that is very, very important. One. On the second part, we make sure that the economics of your business, there's a minimum. Because initially, if I'm being honest, we were very lax, where some companies will come, they don't have even rudimentary management accounts. We'd still allow them to come. But it was all with a view towards motivating them. But now, really, our angels have told us, you know what? We need to have a minimum hurdle. So, and I'll reiterate it. Grow your business properly. Even if you was just you, and you are your boss, have proper financial reporting systems and policies to guide you. That really, you will not appreciate that until you start trying to get someone else to come into your business. It's really, really important. Even at this early stage, you have to keep accounts. You see a lot of people like, oh, you know, the resources, I don't have the capacity. No. If you want to do it, and if you ask any great entrepreneur now, and I could ask Sidi, I can ask him now, I know. Even from when it was just an idea to a few people, you're doing it professionally. It does matter, because when you would appreciate that is when you get to the point when you want to raise money. So at the minimum, there are certain minimum standards that you need to meet to be able to come to GAIN. And again, these are things that we'll talk about in other sessions. But it's very, very important that you do that. And a lot of that we've already talked about it today. So once the Secretariat does that, it prepares profiles of these companies, and then we send it to our angels. The ones that they're interested in is those ones that we officially invite to come and pitch at our events. Before they do, we do some training, we train them, and then usually the pitch is 10 to 15 minutes. So you don't need to be preparing a 30-page deck. I think if you've seen the slides that I passed, there's an approach to how you present your idea that we even have, and we train you on this. But it's usually 10 to 15 minutes. And the main objective of the pitch is just to get somebody's attention. You are not going to convince anybody to invest at that stage. But what you want them to do is be interested enough that they want to have additional conversations with you. That is what we call the deep dive. It's more or less a due diligence readiness meeting. You get to find out more about them. They get to find out more about you. There's certain questions that they had from the pitch. They get to engage, see what your visioning is, see whether you're aligned. You also get to engage them to see how they can add value in your business. Because yes, they have capital, even amongst our members, but you can choose who you want to invest in your business. It's not by force that I'm a member of GAIN, I want to invest, that you take their money. No, you also have a choice because you need to have the right fit. It's very, very important. Now, once that is done, we just need one of our members to say, I'm interested. Once they're done, if it's just one person, we tell you, okay, you are the lead investor. Prepare a term sheet, and then you issue that term sheet, and then you negotiate the term sheet. I've already spoken on the term sheet. The term sheet outlines the material terms of the deal. Example, if you want debt, but the investor wants to do equity, you know you are not aligned. There's no point in carrying conversations. But if the valuation of that, it doesn't need to be confirmed at that stage. But you need to be aligned that, yes, I'm ready to take equity, and this person says, okay, I'm ready to give you equity. Not, okay, I want equity, you want debt. You are not aligned. You see my point? So the point is, at the high level, what the term sheet spells out is the high level terms that at least at the early stage, we can all agree to. Now, those need to be confirmed in due diligence. Let me give you an example. We agree on a term sheet. We say in your term sheet that the valuation of the business is 1 million. But we go into due diligence. Then I find that the claims that you made, that you were making, let's say, $1 million in revenue, in doing my due diligence, I find out that you're actually making 500,000 in revenue. So that means that, hey, we need to look at this valuation again. I cannot agree to that. We may negotiate again. You may decide to walk away. Oh, but you may come to terms and say, you know what, okay, you are right. This, and that. The valuation, we can agree on 700,000. You see. But if you do not have that term sheet where you are not on the same page, it's impossible to do a deal. So that is the logical start. You need to agree, high-level terms. Is it equity? Is it debt? If you're going to do debt, what are broad-level interest rates? What is the term structure of the loan? If it's going to be convertible, what are going to be the conversion terms? There are certain high-level provisions that you can already agree on before you move to due diligence. Now, after due diligence, you agree, then you more or less confirm that. That's what I'm saying, getting a comprehensive term sheet is key. If the term sheet is comprehensive and covers everything and is properly negotiated, everything else goes relatively quickly. If the term sheet is bad, you'll probably be stuck in the due diligence phase, and most probably the deal is going to die. Yeah? But once the due diligence is done, agreed, it's about drafting final agreements, whether if it's equity, shareholders agreement, if it's a mixed convertible loan agreement, if it's a loan, it's a loan agreement, and then check, you got it, and that's it. The rest is monitoring the business in line with what is agreed, and here the Secretariat plays a role in supporting our angels. Thank you very, very much. Really, this is all that I've had. It's very, very short, and we couldn't really go have a deep dive on some of these material points, but I think that I am hoping that we will have additional fora to be able to touch more on some of these points. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We have reached the tail end of the program. Before I call on to the stage Mr. Drame, who is the current MD of GAIN, I want to say a big thank you. It has been a long day, and we hope that this marathon event that we've had today has really encouraged you and restored hope in the ecosystem that we are currently building and the commitment of the angels and the Gambi Angel Investor Network. I'll call on to the Drame to do the closing remarks. And thank you so very much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to have you in my company. And can we go home?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I think it's been a marathon day, but it's all worth it. This is what we need as a nation. We talk about the issues, we advocate, and we forge ahead. Everything that was done here was done for the good of country and people. And not to keep you on for long, is just to say thank you for coming to begin with, and thank you for staying till the end. God bless everyone, and get to your destination safe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.